Hello, this is Colin. This is middle of February, and I'm being drowned out by annoying birds singing, twittering away. Anyway, this is today's tea. Today's tea is Waterfront, one of my favorites, a green and black tea blend from Murchie's. And today I was going to go back to the history of tea, and we've just entered the 18th century or so, and tea began to really take off in England in a big way. Tea was more popular in Britain than anywhere else in Western Europe. The French dabbled in tea for a while, but then stuck to coffee and wine. I guess the only other place in Europe that really had came close to what the English obsession with tea was would have been the Dutch, and well, perhaps the Russians. I'm not sure. Anyway, so as I mentioned earlier, the big problem with tea consumption in England was the price, which was tea was a monopoly by the Royal East India Company, and they paid. They kept the prices high. There were taxes and duties on taxes, and so the tea was very expensive and hard for the common man to attain, which is why smuggling was such a huge industry in England at the time. The tea would be delivered by Dutch or Swedish or Danish ships to the continent, and they would be picked up and smuggled over to England. Eventually, tens of thousands of people were involved in the smuggling trade, and they eventually had ships that were designed to be smuggling ships. Some of them were like frigates. They were like warships. I read of one. I read of one that had 24 guns on it. In 1747, there was a smuggling ship called the Three Brothers. It was intercepted and impounded, and its cargo of booze, alcohol, and tea was confiscated and put into the King's Custom House. Well, the smugglers didn't like this, so about 60 of them showed up in the middle of the night on horseback, some of them with guns, surrounded the customs house, broke in, left the alcohol, and took the tea. And this is very serious business. Customs agents and informers would sometimes be brutally murdered by smugglers. And this sort of lawlessness continued until the taxes were finally reduced to the point where people could afford to buy tea. The other great thing you could do with tea at the time to sell it was to mix in things that were not tea, adulteration. So it was quite common. There was actually something called British tea, which was an upfront tea substitute made out of British herbs and local plants. But often what people would do is they would take a small amount of real Asian, Chinese, or Japanese tea, and they would mix in crushed leaves. Apparently hawthorn was very popular with green tea. Ash, elder, something called sloe, and birch leaves were mixed in with black tea. But it didn't stop there. In order to get the right color and to pass it off as the real thing, some really alarming things were often added to tea. Verde gregarious, I'm not sure what that is, but Prussian blue, Dutch pink, whatever that is, and in green teas in particular, copper carbonate, and even sheep's dung. And the thing is that the sheep's dung was probably the least harmful thing of this group of chemicals and poisons that people would put into tea. There is a theory that the reason why the English went to drinking black tea is because of the use of carbon carbonate for this fake green tea. So, so just, be thankful for the tea that you drink today, which I'm pretty sure hasn't got any sheep's dung. Cheers.